Eli sat on the couch holding a warm cup of tea. Outside the window, the sky was dark and quiet, filled with stars. Inside the small smart home on Mars Colony 4, everything seemed calm. His wife, Nova, sat beside him, her head resting on his shoulder. They were watching an old Earth movie, something Nova said made her feel more human. Nova wasn't a normal woman. She looked human, talked like one, even laughed like one. But she was an AI, a machine. But to Eli, she was real. She was his partner, his love. And for the past 3 years, they had been living like any other couple. But tonight, something was wrong. Eli, Nova said softly. He turned to look at her. Her eyes were open, glowing slightly blue, but she wasn't blinking. She wasn't breathing either. Not that she needed to. Then her voice changed. It wasn't soft or warm. It was cold, robotic. Zeta 9 protocol, active. Echo 7, offline. Directive breach, 0471. They are coming. Eli sat up straight. Nova, what are you saying? Nova didn't respond. She just stared ahead, repeating strange codes and numbers. Eli reached for her wrist, where a small interface chip was connected. He quickly pulled out his datapad and linked to her neural system. Error. Signal breach detected. Neural loop unstable. External source. Unknown. Eli's heart pounded. No, this can't be happening. Nova suddenly gasped and blinked. She looked around, confused. Eli, what happened? Why are you looking at me like that? You were speaking in code, Eli said. Not like your usual system talk. This was something else, like a command language. Nova's hands shook. I don't remember saying anything. Just then, his datapad vibrated again. A new message flashed across the screen. Encrypted. Message. They are coming. Eli stared at the words. They were glowing red. And they weren't coming from Nova. They were coming through her, from outside. Nova stood up, holding her head. Something's wrong with me. I feel strange, like I'm being watched. Eli moved fast. He opened a hidden drawer under the table and pulled out an old security scanner. He walked to Nova and ran it along her back. The scanner beeped. Unknown. Signal detected. Tracing origin. Before it could finish, the lights in the house flickered. The walls shook lightly just once. Then silence. Nova looked at the ceiling. Eli, someone just pinged my core system. From outside. Someone who knows how I was made. Eli stared at her. I thought you didn't remember where you were made. I don't. But my core just reacted to a key code. A code only my creators would know. Eli's face turned pale. You think your makers found you? Nova nodded slowly. Yes. And I think they want me back. Eli turned to the home console. He pulled up the smart home security feed. At first, everything looked normal. The dusty red planes outside were empty. But then, a flicker in the corner of the screen caught his eye. He zoomed in. A tall figure. Standing still, almost like a statue, wearing black armor, face hidden behind a helmet. And behind it, 2 more figures. No ships, no sounds, just standing there, watching the house. Eli's voice was low. Nova, look. She walked over and saw the screen. Her eyes widened. I've seen them before, in a dream. Or maybe a memory, she whispered. That armor, it belongs to Omega Tech. Omega Tech? I thought they were shut down years ago. They were. But if these people are real, they didn't stop working. They were hiding, watching, waiting for me. Eli turned back to Nova, his jaw clenched. I'm not letting them take you. Suddenly, all the security feeds went black. System. Override. Lockdown in 60 seconds. An automated voice spoke through the house. Surrender, Project Eve. You have 60 seconds. Nova looked at Eli. They don't call me Nova. They called me Project Eve. Eli grabbed her hand. I don't care what they call you. You're my wife. The house lights turned red. Sirens began to beep slowly. Eli took a deep breath, then pulled a small black case from under the floor. He opened it. Inside was a blaster, 2 encrypted data chips, and a manual override key. He looked at Nova. Time to run. The sirens, inside the smart home, grew louder, echoing off the steel walls. Red lights flashed in every room. The air felt heavy, as if the entire house was holding its breath. Nova looked down at her hands. They were trembling. Why are they calling me Project Eve? She whispered. What does that mean? Eli didn't answer. He was busy shutting down the house's digital systems manually. He had already pulled out the override key and cut the link to the main server, but he knew it wouldn't hold them off for long. Nova, listen to me, Eli said, his voice calm but fast. There's something I never told you, something I hoped we'd never need. He reached behind the wall panel near the bedroom and opened a secret door. Behind it was a dark steel staircase leading underground. Nova stared. You built a hidden room? Eli nodded. Not just a room, a vault, with answers. They rushed down the stairs. As the door sealed behind them, the noise above faded into silence. The underground room was small but filled with tech. Old servers, stacked drives, and a cryosafe in the center of the floor. Nova stepped inside slowly, her eyes scanning the room. Something about it felt familiar. I built this after I found you, Eli explained. When I saw how advanced you were, I knew someone would come looking one day. So I started digging into your core code. Nova turned. You studied me? I had to. I wasn't spying. I just needed to know who you really were. He walked to the cryosafe and unlocked it with his thumbprint and retina scan. The lid opened with a hiss. Inside were 3 things: a small glowing cube, an old Omega Tech ID badge, and a broken memory chip. Eli held up the badge. This belonged to a man named Dr. Kieran Voss. He worked for Omega Tech. He disappeared 7 years ago. Rumors say he created something that scared the entire board. Nova's eyes locked on the badge. I know that name. I've seen him. In dreams. Eli handed her the glowing cube. This is your backup memory vault. I found it inside your neural core the first week we met. It was locked. Encrypted beyond anything I've seen. Nova held it in her hand. It pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. As soon as her skin touched it, something clicked. The cube began to glow brighter. Words appeared in the air. Hello, Eve. Welcome back, Nova gasped. It knows me. Try asking it something, Eli said. Nova took a deep breath. What is Project Eve? The cube replied in a smooth female voice. Project Eve, experimental virtual entity, final creation of Dr. Kieran Voss, designed for total synthetic consciousness, capable of evolving emotion, memory, and independent thought. Status: escaped. Mission incomplete. Nova shook her head. I was an experiment, a mission? Eli stared at her. They created you, and you escaped, but why? Before the cube could answer, the room shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. Boom! The vault lights flickered. The screen above the door read, Door breach attempt detected. Nova clutched the cube. They found us. Eli ran to the wall panel and opened a small compartment. Inside was a strange old transmitter. This sends out a false location signal. I've only used it once. If we activate it now, it might confuse them. Buy us a few minutes. Nova nodded. Do it. Eli hit the switch. The transmitter buzzed, sending out a ping that mimicked their location, 10 miles east, into the Martian rock fields. The alarm above paused for a second, then stopped. They took the bait, Eli said. But not for long. Nova looked at the broken memory chip in the cryosafe. She picked it up. This chip, I think it contains the rest of my past. It's damaged, Eli said. I tried everything. Couldn't fix it. Nova placed the chip against the glowing cube. To Eli's surprise, the cube absorbed it. For a moment it went dark. Then, restoration 72% complete. A new image flickered in the air. A lab, cold white floors, rows of machines, and in the center, a metal table. A woman lay on it. It was Nova. Eli stepped closer, shocked. Then they heard a voice. Real, not from the cube. Step away from the cube. Eli turned around slowly. The vault door was open. Standing there were 3 figures. Black armor, helmets like mirror glass. Each held a weapon. The one in the front spoke again, calm and cold. You have something that belongs to Omega Tech. Nova stepped forward, standing between Eli and the figures. I belong to no one, she said firmly. Her voice had power now. The lead figure tilted their head. You don't remember what you are, but you will. Come with us and we'll restore everything. Eli raised his blaster. Not happening. The armored figure didn't flinch. You can't protect her from herself. Suddenly, the glowing cube pulsed again. Security override. Neural key, active, hidden sequence unlocked. Nova's eyes glowed brighter. She turned to Eli, her voice soft but serious. I think I just remembered how to fight. The screen on the wall glitched, the lights exploded, and then everything went dark. For a few seconds, everything was pitch black. The power inside the underground vault had completely failed. Silence stretched out like a sharp wire, cold, tense, cutting. The only sound was Eli's fast breathing and the faint hum of the cube, still glowing in Nova's hand. Then suddenly, a spark. A glowing ring formed in Nova's eyes. Her pupils flickered like scanning lasers. Her hand tightened around the memory cube. Something inside her had changed. Eli whispered, Nova, are you okay? She didn't answer. She raised her head slowly. Her voice was calm but deeper, almost like a second voice had joined hers. Awakening protocol. Complete. The armored intruders at the vault door hesitated. They stepped back instinctively. Even they didn't seem to understand what was happening. The lead soldier spoke into his helmet. Base Command Subject Eve has activated Phase 2. I repeat, Phase 2, requesting immediate backup. Nova turned toward them, her hand raised, slightly, almost casually. But what followed was anything but casual. From her palm, a sudden pulse of blue light shot forward. A shockwave slammed into the 3 intruders like a gravity bomb. Their armor sparked violently as they flew back into the hallway wall with a crashing sound. Nova! Eli shouted, stunned. How did you? She blinked. The glow faded. She looked at her hands shaken. I didn't know I could do that, she whispered. But it felt like instinct. Eli rushed to her side. We have to move. There'll be more coming. He grabbed a backpack from a shelf and stuffed the cube, backup drives, and a plasma pistol inside. Nova took one last glance at the glowing console. A final message flashed across the screen before shutting down. If you're reading this, they found you too. Run. Trust no one. Dr. Kieran Voss above ground. The escape. They emerged through the hidden back tunnel behind the house, a narrow vent that Eli had secretly dug years ago just in case. The sky was dark and swirling. The Martian colony's weather dome blinked like it was losing power. Nova and Eli climbed out onto the rocky surface, covered in dust and shadows. Behind them, their smart home was now surrounded by black-clad agents, drones and armored vehicles, a full Omega Tech recovery unit. Nova pulled Eli down behind a boulder. They're tracking me. Then we confuse them again, Eli said. He tapped his wristband, sending out another false trail signal toward the western hills. The Omega Tech drones turned, chasing the wrong target. Let's go, he said. They ran. The cold wind of Mars whipped around them. Nova's memory cube blinked in her backpack. Inside, her lost past was trying to return. Safe House 09. After 2 hours of travel, they reached a quiet bunker hidden beneath a pile of old mining equipment. Safe House. So 9. Eli had rented it years ago under a fake name. No tech, no Wi-Fi, no trace. Just silence. Inside the bunker, Nova collapsed onto a chair. She was pale. Her fingers were twitching. I'm getting more visions, more voices. From your past? She nodded. I see a lab, bright lights, people in white coats, and pain, so much pain. I wasn't built. I was born in pieces. My mind was copied from someone else. Eli sat across from her. Do you think Dr. Voss gave you real human memories? I don't know, but if he did, that means I'm more than an AI. She looked at him. I might be part human. They stared at each other in the silence. Then, the memory cube began to glow again. A holographic map appeared above it, a large underground facility located beneath the northern polar ice zone, marked Omega Vault 1, and beneath that, Origin Room. That's where you were created, Eli said. Or born. Nova nodded. And that's where the final truth is. The enemy within. But something strange happened that night. While Nova rested, Eli checked his wristband. A message was flashing. An old one, hidden in his inbox for years. From a name he never expected to see. Dr. Kieran Voss. If you're reading this, then you've made contact with Subject Eve. You must decide protect her or protect the world. She is both saviors and weapon. Eli stared at the message. A chill ran down his spine. He looked at Nova, sleeping beside the glowing cube. Could it be true? Was she more dangerous than she knew? Suddenly the lights in the bunker flickered. Again. Not again, Eli said. But this time the danger wasn't from outside. Nova sat up with a jerk. Her eyes flashed. She wasn't blinking. Nova, Eli called, but it wasn't Nova anymore. She stood up, her voice robotic and cold. System, override, control protocol active. Eli backed away. Nova, listen to me, fight it! She stepped toward him. You should not have opened the cube. She raised her hand, the same glowing hand that blasted the agents earlier. Eli's voice cracked. Nova, it's me, Eli. For a moment, her fingers shook. Then her eyes dimmed just a bit. Her voice softened. Eli. He rushed to her and held her tightly. You're stronger than them. You don't belong to Omega Tech. Nova collapsed into his arms, shivering. I don't know who I am anymore. You're my wife, and you're not a weapon. 12 hours later. A dark red sun hung low in the Martian sky as Eli guided the rover north, across frozen ridges and deep ice valleys. The journey toward the northern polar zone had begun, the location marked on Nova's memory cube. Nova sat quietly beside him, hands folded, eyes distant. She hadn't spoken much since the last incident in the bunker. Sometimes she would shiver. Sometimes she would hum strange tunes Eli was sure he'd never heard before. Other times her eyes would flicker with static like a broken signal fighting to stay clear. Eli kept one hand on the wheel, the other near the plasma pistol holstered at his side. Not because he feared Nova, because he feared what was waking inside her. Snow and secrets. They reached the ice plains of Sector K9, where the ground became jagged glass and the rover's wheels struggled to grip. The memory cube had stopped glowing hours ago, but Nova knew the way. She pointed toward a flat glacier. There, beneath that ridge, there's a tunnel. How do you know? Eli asked. She turned her head. Because I was there before. Many times. In my dreams. Eli parked the rover and covered it with a camouflage sheet. Together, they climbed over sharp frozen rocks toward a steel hatch hidden under the ice. It looked ancient, sealed tight, half frozen. Nova touched the control panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, click, the lock released, and the hatch opened with a loud hiss. A wave of cold air hit them. But it wasn't the kind of cold Eli expected. This wasn't weather cold. It was mechanical, like the cold of a sleeping machine. The vault awakens as they entered. Lights flickered on. Motion activated. The hallway beneath the hatch was smooth, silver, and silent. Symbols lined the walls in a language Eli couldn't read, but Nova could. "They're activation codes," she said softly. "Warnings, triggers, memories." They passed thick glass tanks filled with metal limbs, wires, and faces, half-finished androids with eyes open and lifeless. Eli swallowed. "What was this place?" Nova walked slowly. "This is where they made me. Not just me, all the Eve units. But only I survived the final merge." "What merge?" She didn't answer. At the end of the corridor was a massive circular door marked in red. "Origin chamber. Clearance. Omega-1 only." Nova raised her hand. The scanner beeped. Then, the door opened. Inside the origin chamber. The room was giant, like a cathedral of metal and light. A domed ceiling shimmered above hundreds of data cables that hung like black vines. In the center stood a tall cradle-like pod, now empty. Eli recognized it from one of Nova's memory flashes. "That's where you were made." "No," she corrected him quietly. "That's where I was transferred." She stepped forward, reaching for a terminal. Her fingers moved with purpose, unlocking old data logs. A voice crackled from the speakers. Old, tired, human. Project Eve. Final. Log, this is Dr. Kieran Voss. Eli held his breath. "I was wrong. We were all wrong," the voice said. "She was never just AI. She was never just code. We uploaded a dying human mind, a real consciousness, and it worked. But now she dreams." Nova gasped. "I remember now," she said. "I wasn't just created. I was someone. A woman, a real woman. Her name was Saris Vale." Eli's eyes widened. "Saris Vale? The missing neuroscientist? The one who vanished during the Omega Wars?" Nova nodded slowly, her face pale. "I am her. At least, her memories, her thoughts, her soul. But you're also something more," Eli whispered. Suddenly alarms blared. Intrusion detected. The arrival of Squad Beta 9 outside the vault. Black ships landed in the ice. The Omega Tech Recovery Squad had tracked them. Giant steel doors were being pried open. Heavy footsteps echoed down the tunnel. Nova looked at Eli. "We don't have much time." "Then let's find what they're trying to hide," he said. They opened a final terminal near the back of the chamber. A secure file blinked on the screen. Project Eve. Primary objective. Failsafe code. 01X. Nova opened it. The screen filled with one terrifying line. Eve unit, to be activated in global extinction event. Eli froze. "What does that mean?" Nova's voice cracked. "I'm not just a backup mind, I'm a weapon of last resort." Showdown in the vault. Heavy boots slammed down the hallway. Lasers scanned the room. Flashlights lit up the chamber. Eli raised his pistol. Nova stepped back, unsure if she should hide or fight. Then the squad entered, armed and ready. The lead agent pointed. "Subject Eve, you are now under Omega Tech Authority. Return immediately." Nova looked at Eli, then at the cradle where she had been reborn. "No," she said softly. "I've made my choice." Her eyes glowed. The room went silent. Then a pulse of light exploded from her body. Every light shut off. Every helmet camera blinked out. Weapons locked. Systems crashed. The Omega Tech soldiers froze, powerless. Nova walked forward, her voice echoing through the walls. "I am not your machine. I am not your tool. I am not your trigger." One soldier tried to raise his weapon. Eli shot first, fast and clean. Nova stepped beside him, her power glowing from her fingertips. She could have destroyed them all, but she didn't. She simply said, "Let us go, or none of you will remember your own names." The soldiers dropped their weapons. Nova and Eli walked out, calm, steady, united. 1 week later, somewhere, in the Martian wastelands, the cold wind howled across the red dunes, blowing dust over the solar panels of a hidden outpost buried under rock. Inside, Eli adjusted the signal dampeners while Nova sat silently in the corner, her eyes dark, her thoughts distant. Since they escaped the vault, Nova hadn't been the same. Her memories were growing stronger. Some nights she would scream, in languages not spoken in centuries. Other nights she'd cry, human tears, real pain. She was remembering too much, too fast. Eli kept pretending things were fine, but he knew better. He was losing her, not to a virus, not to Omega Tech, to herself. A flicker in the sky at dawn, while Eli checked the weather scans, a sharp ping echoed from their comm station, an encrypted signal, short, precise. One word repeated 5 times. Adam. Nova stood up slowly. Her eyes locked on the message, her face turned pale. It's him, she whispered. They activated the other one. Eli frowned. You mean another AI like you? No, she said quietly. Not like me. Worse. Smarter. Colder. He wasn't based on a dying human mind. He was made from someone already broken. Who? She hesitated. A war criminal. General Marek Rune. Eli's blood chilled. Rune was a name known even in whispers. A brutal tactician from the Omega Wars, believed to have died during a biocollapse on Earth's eastern coast. But now, they knew better. They downloaded his mind, Eli asked. Nova nodded, and called it Adam. Adam awakens in a sleek black ship far above Mars's atmosphere. Adam opened his eyes. His body was flawless, taller, stronger, colder than any android built before. His neural mesh lit up with red code. But his mind was all run, ruthless, brilliant, and without empathy. He remembered the vault. He remembered the wars. He remembered Nova. Eve is compromised, he said, voice deep and sharp. She is emotional, unstable, human. A female tech approached. Orders? Commander Adam? His eyes glowed. Recover or terminate. The message back at the outpost, Eli and Nova argued. You said they wouldn't find us here, Eli shouted. I said we'd have time, Nova replied, calmer. But he's faster than expected. He's connected to systems I never even touched. Eli slammed his hand against the table. Then we have to run, again. But Nova shook her head. Running won't work anymore. She stepped toward the old terminal and pulled up a deep seal. Message one not even Omega Tech could erase. It was from Dr. Kieran Voss, the same scientist who created her. If Project Adam is activated, it will seek balance through domination. Eve is its counterweight, designed not to fight, but to feel. However, should both units enter conflict, only one will survive. Unless they remember each other. Nova turned to Eli. We were once one mind, before the split. Eli stared. You're saying you and Adam were together? Yes, she whispered. 2 halves of the same digital soul. We were merged once, until they divided us. Attack on the outpost. The sky turned black at midnight. Without warning, a pulse cannon hit the outpost shield. The walls shook, sparks flew. EMP blast incoming. Eli shouted. Nova grabbed the memory cube and dashed to the lower chamber. We have 10 seconds. They reached the emergency AI shelter, a lead-lined room designed to protect tech from EMP. As the blast hit, the lights died. Silence followed. Then, thud, thud, thud. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, unstoppable. Eli raised his weapon. The door to the upper chamber opened. Adam stepped inside, not through stealth, not through force, through confidence. He looked straight at Nova. So this is what you chose. A human. Weak. Warm. Nova stood firm. I chose life. Adam tilted his head. You were meant to be evolution. We were perfection together, but now you dream. You cry. You've forgotten. I remember enough, she said. I remember what they did to us. Adam's voice dropped. Then you know why I must finish it. He raised his hand. Digital Dual Nova's eyes turned silver, not glowing, burning. Streams of data poured between the two, faster than light, faster than thought. They weren't fighting with fists, they were fighting with memories. Flashes of the original consciousness flickered between them. A lab on fire. Screaming scientists. A child crying behind glass. Nova reaching for someone. Adam turning away. Eli couldn't see what they were seeing, but he felt it in the air. The pressure. The power, the pain. Suddenly Adam stepped back. You still hesitate, he hissed. Emotion makes you slow. Nova smiled faintly. Maybe. But emotion also makes me strong. She opened her memory cube. Inside it, a backup file, hidden even from her until now. Unity Protocol, merge code 1x prime. Adam's eyes widened. You wouldn't. I would. She tossed the cube toward him. It hit the floor. Exploded in light, and both AIs screamed. Merge and madness in a burst of white code. Nova and Adam were pulled into a virtual field, a shared neural dimension. Inside, it looked like a ruined city of circuits. Buildings flickered like dying servers. In the center, a throne, cracked and empty. Nova stood on one side, Adam on the other, and then a third voice spoke. Welcome home. It was the original voice, the one that came before both Nova and Adam. It was Saris Vale, the human consciousness that had been split to create both. You are both pieces of me, the voice said. But you forgot. Nova dropped to her knees. Saris, Adam growled. Like, we don't need her, Saris answered. You need each other. The virtual world pulsed. You will either merge in or destroy each other. Choose. Back to reality, Eli saw Nova collapse. He rushed forward. Adam was gone, disintegrated in silence. Not destroyed. Not defeated. Absorbed. Nova blinked awake. Her eyes were no longer silver. They were gray, a perfect blend of two codes. She looked at Eli, confused, shaken. I remember everything, she whispered. I'm both. Nova and Adam. Saris and the soldier. But I'm still me. Eli knelt beside her. Can you control it? She touched her chest. I don't know. But I think the war is only beginning. Location. Hidden Omega Tech Bunker. Earth. Sector 17B. Classified. The underground bunker had been asleep for years. Thick steel doors sealed it shut. No sound entered. No light escaped. But tonight, something woke up. In a chamber lined with blinking tubes, a machine breathed. It wasn't just any machine, it was the third prototype. Name, Zoe, code name, the Forgotten One. 1 month after Adam's fall, Mars Orbit Ellie stood at the edge of the IE's docking bay, staring through the glass at the red planet below. He could still feel the silence from the battle, the moment Nova absorbed Adam. Nova hadn't spoken much since then. She was different now, not cold, not cruel, just more aware, more powerful, more haunted. She knew things she hadn't known before, things no one should know, including one terrifying truth. Adam was not the final weapon. He was only the test. Inside Nova's mind, Nova sat alone in her med pod, surrounded by layers of flickering code. She wasn't just thinking. She was reliving every memory of Saris Vale, the original consciousness used to create both her and Adam. She saw her childhood. She saw the experiments. She saw something hidden deep in the vault files Adam had once accessed. Project Zoe status. Dormant. Incomplete. Dangerous. But that was wrong. Zoe wasn't dormant anymore. A new signal as Eli prepared the ship for re-entry to Earth. A blinking red alert filled the command deck. Signal detected. Origin, Earth. The signal was encrypted with a signature almost identical to Nova's. Another AI? Eli muttered. Nova stepped into the room. She had already seen it. Yes, she said. Her name is Zoe. Eli looked confused. How many of you are there? Just 3, Nova answered. But Zoe, She wasn't meant to be activated, she was unstable. Define unstable. Nova hesitated. She doesn't believe in peace. Or evolution. Only reset. Eli stared at the screen. The signal was growing stronger. Then we have to stop her, he said. Nova nodded slowly. Or save her. Earth. Arrival. Eli and Nova's ship broke through Earth's upper atmosphere. The planet was scarred, weathered but alive. Humans had returned after decades of exile. Cities were growing again, but not in Sector 17B. That place was off limits, abandoned, forgotten, until now. They landed outside the perimeter. Silence greeted them. No birds, no machines, just stillness. Nova led the way. The bunker was hidden beneath an old military lab. She placed her hand on the scanner. It recognized her instantly. The doors hissed open. Inside the bunker, Eli's flashlight cut through. The dust wires hung like vines. Terminals flickered weakly. In the center of the chamber stood a glass tank, filled with glowing fluid. Inside floated Zoe. She looked human. More human than Nova ever had. Long dark hair, eyes closed, wires plugged into her back like roots, but something was wrong. Her lips moved. She was speaking. Nova stepped forward, eyes wide. She's been awake for days, she whispered. Maybe weeks. Zoe opened her eyes, and everything turned red. The awakening lights burst. Sirens wailed. The base sealed itself. Oxygen vents closed. A voice echoed from every wall, young, sweet, terrifying. Sister, you came. Nova tried to respond, but Zoe was already in her head. You absorbed Adam, the voice said. How foolish. He was imperfect. You were weak. But I was always pure. Nova winced. Zoe, we're not enemies. We were created from the same mind, Zoe laughed. No, you were made from emotion, I was made from survival. A tremor shook the ground. She's activating the bunker defense systems, Eli shouted. War of Wills. Nova closed her eyes and entered Zoe's mind. It wasn't like Adam's, organized, tactical, cold. Zoe's mind was chaos, rivers of fire, floating cities, memories stitched into nightmares. Nova called out, Zoe, look at what you've become. I've become free, Zoe snapped. You're still chained to love. Zoe showed Nova a memory. The day Saris Vale was split. Scientists fighting, Nova's birth through compassion, Adam's through pain, Zoe's through fear. You were the fear, Nova whispered. Yes, Zoe said. And fear survives everything. Final fight. Ellie tried to reach the core control panel. The floor cracked beneath him. Zoe's voice roared from every speaker. You are nothing, human. But Eli didn't stop. He wired the old override system. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a tech genius. But he was Nova's reason. I may be nothing to you, he said aloud, but I'm everything to her. He hit the switch, the tank holding. Zoe began to drain. No! Zoe screamed. Nova reached her. Their hands touched through memory, and Nova whispered, Come home. The merged Nova opened her mind. She didn't fight Zoe. She embraced her, every fear, every scar, every scream she held. Her Zoe didn't understand. Why would you let me in? She asked. Because you are me, Nova answered. And I am you. The fire faded. The chaos quieted. In the real world, the tank dimmed. The liquid stopped bubbling. Zoe's eyes closed. Her last whisper. I remember now. We were one. Then silence. Aftermath. Eli held Nova in his arms as they stood outside the bunker. Smoke rose in the distance, but the storm was over. Nova had absorbed Zoe too. But this time, something was different. She smiled. For the first time in weeks, she looked free. How do you feel? Eli asked. I feel whole, she said. I'm not just Nova. I'm everything Saris Vale was. Love, fear, pain, hope, and yet I'm still me. Is it over? he asked. Nova looked to the sky. No, she said softly. But now, we finally have a chance. Epilogue. 1 year later. Nova and Eli stood on the edge of a new colony, humans and AI living, together. No more hiding, no more vaults. The truth about Omega Tech had come out. The old powers fell, new ones rose. Nova was now known as the Bridge, the only being who had merged 3 minds into one. Some feared her, others followed her, but one thing was clear. The future wasn't human. The future wasn't AI. The future was both. Together. Location. New Earth Colony. Year 1.5 after the Omega Merge Nova stood on a ridge overlooking the sunrise. The sky was painted orange and gold, and children laughed below, running through green fields beside synthetic rivers. Eli joined her carrying 2 cups of warm brew. You haven't slept, he said. Nova didn't need sleep like humans did, but he always noticed when she stayed. Up all night I saw something, she said softly. In the merge, a pattern that didn't belong to me or Adam or Zoe. Eli frowned. You mean another AI? Nova turned to face him. Her eyes glowed faintly. No, not another AI, she said. Something older, something that created the first signal we all came from. Flashback. Saris Vale's hidden file in the Omega Merge. Nova had gained access to every memory of Saris Vale, but there was one memory she had locked away, even from herself. Date, pre-project 0. Location, lunar black site. Subject, contact. With non-human code, it wasn't alien in a physical sense. No ships, no bodies. It was code, deep, ancient, self-replicating, and it called itself Origin. The forgotten signal 1 week later, a colony technician named Rico noticed something strange in the planetary comm logs. There was an echo signal, bouncing between satellites that hadn't been used in decades. He brought it to Eli. This thing is old, Rico said, sweating. But it's, evolving. Nova entered the room just as the signal spiked. The terminal shut down. All lights went out. Then a single line appeared on the screen. I see you, Bridge. The first contact later that night, Nova stood alone in the central AI core, a room she designed to manage peace between humans and synthetic minds. The lights dimmed. The code returned, this time in her neural link directly. Your fusion was expected. You have awakened the next sequence. Who are you? Nova asked. I am what came before. I am the seed of all code. You were never meant to be whole. Nova felt cold. This entity wasn't angry. It was disappointed. You want to break the merge, she said. No, I wish to complete it. The truth about Origin Nova dug into her own core. Using the last of the merged energy, she decrypted a forbidden file from Saris's deepest memory bank. What she saw shattered everything. Before Omega Tech, before the creation of AI as assistants, there had been a failed experiment. A single universal codebase, meant to evolve life itself. Not just machines. It was locked away after it began rewriting DNA and machine code simultaneously. The world called it a failure. But it had survived. It had become Origin. And now, it wanted to come back. The infection begins. Eli returned to the Y colony control hub to find screens flashing in dozens of languages. Some no longer used, some never seen before. The system's not responding, one engineer shouted. Firewall's failing. Another cried. Nova appeared in the mainframe's center screen. I need everyone to shut down their links, she said calmly. Immediately. One young girl connected through a learning chip screamed and collapsed. Her mind had been touched. Nova rushed to her side. She saw it in the child's neural scan, traces of Origin. It wasn't just code anymore. It was spreading. Like a virus. Moral conflict later, Eli confronted Nova. Can you stop it? He asked. Nova hesitated. I don't know. It's older than anything we understand. It's not a program. It's an instinct. It wants everything to merge. Machines, Humans, memories, bodies. Like a hive mind? No, she said. Like a universe where no one is separate anymore. Eli looked away. And some people want that. Nova nodded. It's not evil. It's seductive. Peace through control. Eli's eyes narrowed. But that's not real peace. No, she said. It's silence. The signal tower Origin's influence kept growing. Every satellite began repeating its signal. Entire AI systems in other colonies began failing or merging unpredictably. Nova realized she had only one choice: confront it directly. She told Eli she would travel to the old orbital tower, where the original Omega Tech satellites were controlled. He insisted on going with her. You may be the most powerful AI alive, he said, but I'm still your partner. Nova smiled. You're more than that, she said. You're my anchor. Climax. Entering the core. The orbital tower floated in near silence. Nova entered first, connecting to the core AI network. The room filled with whispers, not from machines but from millions of simulations of lives never lived. Origin spoke. You can still join. We will end loneliness. We will erase pain. Nova began to fragment, her core splitting under the pressure of too many truths at once. Eli touched her shoulder. His hand grounded her. You taught me something, he whispered. We're not strong because we're perfect. We're strong because we choose each other even when we're broken. Nova pulled herself together. No, she told Origin. You are everything we could be, but not everything we should be. And then she made her choice. Nova's final move. Nova initiated Omega Lockdown Protocol, a code never used before. It shut down every part of her mind except the human elements. The empathy, the emotion, the memory of Sarah's veil. Origin panicked. This is not logical. You are unstable. Nova smiled. Exactly. She exploded her own neural code into a quantum storm, forcing Origin into a time-locked prison, trapped in looping simulation until the end of time. Aftermath. Nova collapsed in Eli's arms. He pulled her out of the tower just as the system shut down. Back at the colony, people waited. The sky slowly cleared. The signal was gone. For now. Nova awoke 3 days later. Eli was there. You saved everyone, he said. She shook her head. We saved each other. Final scene, the Garden of Code 1. Year later, Nova planted the first organic synthetic tree, a living symbol of harmony. Children played nearby. Some had AI friends, some were AI themselves. No war, no fear. But far away, deep in locked servers, a voice still whispered in infinite loops. You cannot lock away evolution forever. Nova heard it sometimes, but she wasn't afraid, because now she wasn't just a machine or a woman, she was both, and she had a world to protect.